Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's The Amazing Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin for the Sega CD, brought to us by Sega. Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin was a game released not only for the Sega CD, but also the original Sega Genesis/Mega Drive, as well as the Game Gear and Master System. The Sega Genesis version is one of the most popular Sega Genesis titles of all time. The Sega CD version, which was released later on in 1993, added animated cutscenes that are actually quite nice for the time, as well as it changed up the gameplay a little bit, giving you actually a level select screen that you have to go through, different level designs, but overall the story and the main gameplay remain the same. The goal is rather straightforward, of going to the main levels, defeating each of the bosses, and collect keys in order to disarm a bomb that the Kingpin himself has planted in the city and has blamed it on Spider-Man for being the one who actually planted the bomb. So here we go with Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin for the Sega CD. When we start up the game, you can press start a brand new game, put in a password, or look at the options menu. There are 3 different difficulties to the game, though the ending to the game will remain the same. There are 2 endings to the game, which is only affected by whatever you do in the final battle. When we start up the game, we get our first animated cutscene.
Where young Peter Parker is employed as a freelance photographer. Peter's work on his large daily newspaper has brought him into contact with some of the more unsavory characters that roam the streets of the city.
Boy, what an ugly bunch! The nastiest batch of criminals in the world, and New York's got them. Lucky thing, they've also got Spider-Man.
Only Peter's wife, Mary Jane, knows his extraordinary secret. That he is not merely the pleasant and conventional young man he seems.
Mary Jane.
Hi, Tiger.
Hi, honey. What's up?
I was just on my way to the studio to tape today's episode of Secret Hospital. Thought I'd stop by and get a kiss. If you're not too busy, of course.
Now there's something I'm never too busy for.
That ought to keep me happy until dinner. See you then?
Yep. See you tonight. That woman! What the? She's being attacked!
When trouble arises, as it does so often, Peter Parker is no longer just an ordinary newspaper photographer, but something else entirely. Something with the strength, endurance, and power of...
Looks like it's time to call on your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
When you get control of Spider-Man for the first time, we're going to drop off the first building that we're on, take out the thief that is trying to rob the old woman, and then we get another cutscene.
Officer, that nice young man in the long underwear saved my purse and all my money.
Good work, Spider-Man. It's a good thing you came along when you did. You're the best friend this city ever had. I'm just glad you're on our side.
I was just doing my job, officer. Happy to be of help.
Young man, I don't know what I would have done without you, but you really shouldn't run around in public dressed like that.
Yes, ma'am. I'll keep it in mind.
Goodbye, Spider-Man.
That young man is a real hero.
He certainly is, ma'am. I don't know what this city would do without him.
Let's see what's on TV.
We interrupt our regularly scheduled broadcast to present this special emergency report from Wilson Fisk, a concerned citizen and one of our city's leading businessmen. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Fisk.
Kingpin.
What do you suppose he's up to now?
Whatever it is, it's bound to be bad news for New York. And for Spider-Man.
Fellow citizens of New York, it is my painful duty to make you aware that a monstrous crime has been perpetrated against us by a man we thought was our ally. It has come to my attention that Spider-Man has turned renegade against the forces of law and order.
Hey, that was back when Jonah had everyone convinced I was a crook. And I didn't hurt those cops.
He is perpetrating one monstrous crime after another, all across our city.
me.
But I never did that.
Oh, my poor doggy.
And now he has devised the most ghastly crime of his career. He has planted a bomb that will explode in exactly 24 hours, destroying the entire city.
I certainly never did that.
I am offering a reward of $500,000 for Spider-Man's capture, in hopes that he can be forced to reveal the location of the bomb before it is too late. We must protect ourselves from the super criminal Spider-Man.
Peter, what are you going to do?
If there's really a bomb, it'll be Kingpin's doing. I'll have to find it and disarm it in the next 24 hours.
But the police are going to think you're the criminal.
Don't worry about that, Mary Jane. The police know I'm on their side.
I want an all-points bulletin issued for the arrest of Spider-Man.
Consider it done, sir. Who'd have thought Spider-Man would turn on us? Now we're going to have to turn this city upside down to find him before that bomb goes off. Let's get on it!
And now the game truly begins, as we find out that the Kingpin has set the bomb, and Spider-Man, of course, not only must disarm it, but also try to do his best to get his reputation back. The whole game starts off with a selection screen of the entire map of New York City itself. There's all these little points on it, with little buses, as well as the green spots representing levels. In order to complete the game itself, you must defeat the bosses. The bosses, as you'll notice, like for example Doc Ock, his face will be in the middle with different levels surrounding him in a circle. The level that is red is the level that you want to go to. Completing this level will take you to the next level that has you battling Doc Ock. You can complete all the levels if you want to. However, in this run of the game, I'm only going to be completing the levels that we need to in order to defeat the bosses. Most of the levels are rather straightforward, with a few of them having maze-like sections, such as, for example, this, of having us having to walk up some walls or walk along ceilings. Some of the other levels in the game will be just as straightforward, going over buses or going over different things, and then making it to the end to an exit, and you don't really get rewarded for completing all the stages that are optional. Spider-Man controls extremely well, being able to actually jump on ceilings and climb along walls, and of course, use your web-slinging abilities, either to fire straight out at enemies, or when you're jumping in the air, use it to swing. You have a web meter and a life meter represented at the bottom of the screen, as well as the time in the lower right corner, which is how much time you have left to complete the game before the bomb ends up going off. If you focus mainly on just the main levels of defeating each of the bosses, you should have plenty of time in order to complete the game. You can defeat enemies, either using your punch, or you can actually hit them with the web and then beat them up a little bit, but a lot of enemies it's better just to kind of avoid. The game does a great job though of giving you plenty of health and web ability, so you never really have your meters too far down. The first boss that we're battling though is Doc Ock himself. You can only hit him usually when he's getting ready to face you, or that he's just turned his back to you. So, I walk along the bottom of the ground, which you actually crawl faster than you walk in the game, wait for him to get ready for an attack, and then get in close and deliver the punch. Spider-Man not only has the punch attack, but he also has a jump kick ability. The jump kick is actually stronger than the punch, however, the timing of it's a little bit different, so I recommend using the punch, especially on certain bosses. Though other ones, where they're a little bit more open, they're out in the open for their hitbox, you can just do the jumping kick to them and do more damage. Once you defeat a boss, you're going to get another cutscene.
You've been disarmed, Doc. Why don't you come clean and tell me what the Kingpin is up to this time? Is there really a bomb planted somewhere?
Yes, you arachnoid moron, for all the good it'll do you. Kingpin's fixed it so you'll never be able to disarm it either. It takes 5 keys to stop the bomb's internal clock, and they have to be inserted in the proper order, or the whole thing goes boom.
I don't get it. Why would the Kingpin want to blow up his own city?
This isn't about one measly city bug breath. It's about world domination and getting rid of you once and for all. We'll be safe when it happens, never you fear.
Tell me where to find the keys, or I'll cut you up for calamari.
I don't know where all of them are, but you might try looking in Central Park for one of them. And if you want another, you'll have to go to the sewer and take it away from the lizard.
You're using Kurt Connor's affliction as a tool to defeat me? Hasn't that poor man suffered enough?
I find fathers to be very useful, and I don't think you'll be quite as sympathetic after he beats you to a bloody pulp.
Why don't you, stick tight for a while, Doc? The police will be by after I call them and tell them where to find you. Meanwhile, I've got some keys to find.
For completing a level, you'll end up getting a new password and then be sent back to the main map. Like I said, there's plenty of optional things to do, but we're going to focus only on the main levels. So we're going to go to Electro stages now, selecting the red dot and heading in. Now, you may be wondering about those red dots and why the other levels are even there. Well, every time you play the game, you'll get a different set of red levels. One of the other dots may be red and you may have to complete a different stage in order to get to the actual boss stage. So the game does vary and has replayability in that fact. The most annoying enemies during the Electro level are the flying electronic guys that, as you can see, are quite large overall and they keep hounding you non-stop. My goal usually is just to keep moving and get past them, and eventually, once I finally make it to the boss, then I usually have to deal with them. Watch out, of course, during this section, though, for the lightning bolts that will be raining down from the sky. Though, if you hang mainly on the ground, you'll be able to pick up a couple of items along the way to help you out. When you see the health item above you, jump up to that, and then work your way up just a little bit higher and Electro will appear. Electro can be difficult to hit, because when you move towards him, he usually not only moves away from you, but also downwards, going off screen. This is actually a common problem, it seems, with Electro bosses, as Electro in Return to Sinister 6 for the NES pretty much did the same thing. My goal is to jump on this platform, get him to come up, and then do a jump kick towards him. Sometimes I'll hit him with a jump kick, but usually I'm able to at least get a punch in on him before he's able to get too far off screen. And then just keep repeating. One thing you're going to notice with most of the boss fights in the game is they're very repetitive, usually with a very easy way to kind of get them locked in a certain combo and allowing me to hit them over and over again without taking damage. With the first example, of course, being Electro here. Once you're able to defeat him, you'll get another cutscene with Electro, and then we'll be able to go to the next level.
Well, Electro, it looks like your circuit has come up a little short. And I thought you were such a live wire.
Laugh while you can, bug brain. The Kingpin has you right where he wants you this time.
Well, now, what's this?
How should I know? I've never seen it before.
Right. Well, I'll just hang on to it if you don't mind. I'm sure it'll come in handy. You just relax, Sparky, and don't blow a fuse. There'll be someone along to cut you loose any time now.
Why don't you relax, Spider-Man? Take some time off. Get away from it all. I know the perfect place. Coney Island.
Sounds like a plan. Can I bring you back a hot dog?
I'd say yes, but you won't be coming back.
Is that any way to talk to your old pal? You know me. I always show up when you least expect me.
One of the cool things though about this game is when you do end up losing all your health and getting the game over, you get an animated cutscene for each way that you possibly did lose your life in whatever level it was. And then when you continue, you'll get a unique animated scene for hitting that continue button. Next up we're going to Vulture, and he takes place on one of the different train type levels in the game. Most of these are absolutely identical, with just having you jump from train to train. There's a lot of them you can do, but only a couple that we actually have to do. Overall, Very straightforward and pretty boring levels. The area that actually contains Vulture is more of the same. Work your way towards the front of the train, trying to jump over the enemy bullets, and if you time it right, you'll get a good pattern of being able to jump right after the guy fires straight out at you while standing, and then he'll duck. You'll keep being able to go in between all of their bullets. At the end of the front bus, Vulture will appear. And just like with Electro, there's an easy combo. Hit him with the jump kick, wait for him to go off screen and come back, and if you keep timing it every time he dives down with the kick, you'll easily take him out. Quite a simple boss once again. The timing on this can be a little bit difficult at first, and even sometimes with the kick, he'll be able to hit you, but even if he does, you'll be able to get him right back into that combo a second later.
Guess I must have winged it. Now to get to Coney Island. Oh, what is this stuff? I'm getting sort of dizzy. What a ride. Are we at Coney Island yet? And how did I get here?
Welcome to Mr. World, Spider-Man. I've created my own carnival of illusions deep beneath Coney Island. And I wanted you to be my first customer.
What is this place? Thanks, Bubblehead. But if it's all the same to you, I'll just take the key and go.
Go? Where? You're only 2 inches tall, Spider-Man. No. If you're going to be squashed like the bug you are, I'll be the one doing the squashing. Let the fun begin.
Now the most interesting part of the game happens. After the Vulture fight, or after completing the first 3 bosses, you'll get trapped in a giant pinball machine by Mysterio. Now this is completely optional, and really just for fun. You actually have to end up falling down and technically losing a life or game overing, but that's how you actually end up able to continue the game. So, just for the heck of it, I mess around a little bit with the pinball game, showing you overall what you can do in it, including getting stuck at the top part in the vortex-looking thing, going through the center through a pipe system, and coming out the other side, as well as you have all the little logos of all the other bosses in the game spread out. I'm not sure if there is an actual end to this, as I was never able to really kind of complete anything in the end, even with the different enemies' faces along the way. Eventually, I just end up falling down and go through the next cutscenes.
We got something special for you, Sarge.
Spider-Man, huh? This ought to make the chief happy. Put him in a holding cell until I can call the feds and find out what they want to do with him. What a night! All this talk about nuking the city's got this town crazier than usual. And that's saying a lot.
Yeah, sure, Sarge.
And tell the guy guarding the cell to keep his eyes open. These super guys are some slippery customers.
Whatever you say.
Gotcha!
After we continue and escape the police station, it's time to move on to the next set of levels, which are located over to the right, and it's Mysterio's levels. These levels are, well, not only mysterious, but confusing as all heck. These levels are probably the most confusing in the game, but for the one that I was lucky enough to get, I thankfully know my way straight forward through this one. There's fire and electricity coming out of the ceilings and walls, as well as some spikes lining up. I just follow the path that I know in order to get up into that upper right corner and find that exit. The second part, more of the same. In the second part, we're going to keep crawling like we've been going so we can get underneath the spikes, and then when you fall onto the giant ball, you want to be facing the left so that when you move, it ends up rolling in. When we make it to the end, we're just going to jump up. That way we can avoid all the rest. And there's also a giant weight that sometimes will fall on you in some of the areas of Mysterio's stages. Now we're going to ride the elevator, which has the weirdest pattern ever. as we make it to the top, and then have to go over another set of spikes. Here, you have to fight different clones of Spider-Man that are made from the weird-looking carnival-like mirrors in the background, but if you crawl along the ceiling, you can avoid them for the most part. Other than that, you just have to punch them a few times and each one will be defeated. Be careful climbing up this wall for the flames, and I always seem to hit those spikes when I get up at the very top there. After another set of fire, when we drop off, it's time to actually get ready to battle Mysterio himself. And Mysterio, another extremely easy boss, as he just disappears and reappears right directly behind you. So you can just move a couple feet, smack him with a punch, and then keep doing it over and over again. It'll take a little bit longer if you use the punches over the jump kick, but it makes the battle extremely easy.
It's no mystery that you're finished, Mysterio. Why don't you admit defeat and hand over the key?
The key? You could have had the key long ago, Spider-Man. If you were half as smart as you think you are.
What are you talking about, Bubble Brain? I didn't see any key.
My point exactly. The key was there, but you didn't see it. If you want it, you're going to have to go back in there for it.
Don't do anything I wouldn't do while I'm gone, Bubbles. And give my regards to the police.
Now, instead of just ending the level right there, you actually now have to leave through a new area of Mysterio stage. Start off by climbing upwards, and you can grab an extra health as well as extra web ability. Then you want to drop on down. There's going to be electricity here as well as some spikes and flames. Just, of course, wait for the opportunities to get by them all. And after you get past this last bit of electricity and fall down, there's the key for the level. You'll get your password and get back to the map screen. At this point, you once again have a couple of different choices you can go to for whatever villain you want to take out next. Next one that we're going to battle with, though, is the Lizard. Now, surprisingly, the Lizard's levels take place inside of a sewer system. Because of this, there's a couple of new threats to you. We've already seen some rats, but we now also have to deal with bats. What game wouldn't be complete without bats? As well as very strange, weird, jumping yellow guys. I really don't know what's up with those guys overall. Connecting all the rooms throughout the sewer are pipes, and figuring out which pipes you should take in order to complete each of the areas is probably the most tricky, especially when it comes to the second area where Lizard actually resides in. This area is rather large, and you have a bunch of different pipes that you can end up taking. Some pipes end up just leading you around into the same room that you entered them from, as well as other ones will drop you down, or go either right or even up. For example, here I ended up going up, but I really wanted to actually drop down, and then go up in this set of pipes in order to get to the next room. Once in here, on the right side, there's actually two pipes. You want to take the one just above, and that'll take you to the room with the location of the Lizard. But first, I'm going to battle all these bats so they can get away from me before I actually do the Lizard fight itself. The Lizard is another easily timed fight, as you can punch him every time he runs at you, and he'll just run away from you, and then return. Instead of his body, you really want to be aiming at the end of his lab coat. That dangling part that's longer than any other part of the lab coat is what I aim for what I want my fist to connect with. If you time this right, you can just keep bouncing him back and forth off that right wall.
I'm sorry, Kurt. I know you can't help the awful chemical reaction that keeps turning you into the Lizard. And you can't help what you do when you transform. But I had to stop. Kurt, are you okay?
Where am I? What am I doing here? Spider-Man! What's going on?
It's a long story, Kurt. You might say I ran into you while I was looking for something down here. A key.
Could this be the key?
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I never saw it before. Well, here, you take it.
Thanks, Kurt. This will help me clobber the Kingpin.
What's happening to me?
Oh no! He's the lizard again! Sorry, Kurt. It looks like I'm going to have to take you out again. If I can.
However, the battle with the lizard isn't quite over yet, as we now get to the second form. This one will pretty much do the same, though it's a little bit harder to get the timing on the normal punches, and you won't be able to do the standing punch to him. Here, you just want to do a more typical style of fighting, hitting him when he gets close to you each time. However, if he gets too close to you on the punches, he'll actually be able to do an attack of his own. Once we're back to the main map, we're going to take out the Sandman next. It's a little bit hard to even tell because after a few seconds Sandman's face will briefly appear and then disappear from the area that you're going in. All the areas around Sandman, there are pretty straightforward park areas. The first one, whatever one you end up getting, is usually just going over to the right. You'll have a few riot police, but there's also some health items and stuff to deal with. You gotta love the layered look that they ended up doing with the trees in front of you as well as the path that you're on. Second area, more straightforward, but pay attention. At the very beginning of the level, there's a fire hydrant, and that's what you're going to need to actually defeat Sandman himself. While all the other bosses so far at this point, we've just actually attacked to defeat. Sandman, and another boss we'll be facing in just a bit, actually end up requiring you to do something special in the fight. Once you get Sandman to appear from, well, the sandbox in the back, when you find out when punching him, all of a sudden he'll go back underground and end up healing himself. Of course, we can't do anything with that, so what we have to do is now swing or walk our way back all the way to the beginning of the area where that fire hydrant was. There's also a giant monkey in this level, and he can be a pain to deal with, but if you outrun him, he'll go off screen and you won't have to deal with him. What you have to do is get the Sandman to appear in front of the fire hydrant, then blast him, and the battle's instantly over.
Looks like one more bad guy down the drain. What have we got here? A key! Mighty considerate of you to leave this for me, Sandman. It looks like I'm one step closer to spoiling the Kingpin's plan. Kingpin's making another broadcast, and I thought this might be the best way to see it and stay out of sight.
Time is running out for New York. Spider-Man, that enemy of all that is lawful and good in our city, has still not been apprehended. I am increasing the reward for his capture to $1 million in hopes that he will be apprehended before it is too late. Anyone having any information concerning his whereabouts should contact me at the Fisk Building in Midtown Manhattan. Spider-Man must be brought to justice.
Gee, that guy's convincing. If I didn't know better, I'd be out looking for me. I better find that bomb before somebody takes advantage of Kingpin's offer to become an instant millionaire.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a special bulletin. Mary Jane Watson Parker, well-known star of the popular daytime drama Secret Hospital, has been kidnapped by Spider-Man. The fugitive supervillain has sent a note to Wilson Fisk at the Fisk Building in Midtown Manhattan, threatening to kill Miss Parker unless all attempts to capture him are called off immediately. We'll be bringing you more on this situation as it develops.
Mary Jane kidnapped? This has to be more of Kingpin's doing. Well, he's gone too far this time. I won't rest until she's safe, and until I see Kingpin behind bars.
After defeating Sandman and getting the next scene with Kingpin, next up is the Hobgoblin that we're going to battle with. The Hobgoblins level take place around the Empire State Building, so it's mainly city areas. My favorite thing though is during these levels is a skateboarding character. While not an enemy and just a civilian, you can punch the skateboarder knocking them off their skateboard, which I think is one of the funniest animations in the game. Eventually you want to climb up on the buildings at some point. That way you can get onto the rooftop if you need to in order to make it over to the actual exit. The only real enemy during this portion is the SWAT team members, and it's pretty easy to either duck under or jump over their bullets. The part that actually contains the Hobgoblin, more the same, as we're going to work our way up the large buildings, eventually making it to the large building where we can actually fight Hobgoblin himself. Climbing up, you'll be able to find yourself lots of health items and some more webbing in case you need to replenish your health. Hobgoblin's pumpkin bombs do a lot of damage, but Hobgoblin himself, once again, pretty easy to get into a pattern. Hang on the edge of this building here and do jump kicks at him. While he'll be able to hit you with the pumpkin bombs, with the jump kick, you'll usually do more damage than him. If you get low on health, run around and try to find some other health items that may be scattered. But overall, pretty easy.
When will you supervillains ever learn? You could have saved yourself a lot of bruises by just handing it over, Hobgoblin.
Is this what you came for, Spider-Man? You're wasting precious time, fool. If you want the key, you can fight him for it.
Well, nobody ever said being a hero would be easy.
Next up is my favorite villain in the Spider-Man series, Venom. Now, Venom actually ends up having more than just one extra stage for him. You'll start off with some building type areas depending upon which area that you have to with the red marking, but it's more city type scapes that we just dealt with the Hobgoblin, so we're going to take to the air, climbing on top of the buildings, and use them to get over all the SWAT team members. It's usually a pretty short area for these stages. The second area, however, Venom ends up showing up, and you cannot defeat him. In fact, you can't really defeat Venom at any point until near the end of the game, when we get to a boss rush type mode. In this second area, our goal is to climb up the giant church itself. This building is quite large, and when you make it to the top, you'll have to jump up and climb a little bit farther in order to reach the exit itself. Now we're actually inside the church itself, and once again, Venom cannot be hurt. You can punch him and it'll do a little damage, but after a few seconds, it'll regenerate. What you have to do is, well, actually pretty simple, climbing all the way to the very top of the church. There's two giant bells at the top. What you'll have to do is hit both bells. Making contact with both bells, as long as they're both ringing, ends the battle.
What are you doing to me? Just trying to ring your chimes, tall, dark, and toxic. Leave it to me to poison your chances, eh, Venom? I don't think you'll be needing this anymore.
Don't count me out yet, Spider-Man!
I don't need spider sense to tell me I haven't seen the last of him.
And now it's time for the final stage of the game, the Kingpin. Depending upon which area you have to go into, the first area is pretty much a lab-type setting, having some giant robots for us to deal with, as well as enemies wearing coats that we've dealt with on the train-esque levels. Thankfully, the one I ended up getting is pretty short and sweet. You'll have giant cannons shooting at us, but the exit is right above them at the top of the elevator. However, the main part is the second area of Kingpin stage, as you'll have to battle the previous bosses that we've tangled with throughout the game, as well as a couple of new ones at the end of the area before we even make it to Kingpin. We're going to start off fighting the Vulture, and we're going to use the same strategy as we did before. Doing the jump kick at him. In order to hit him, he'll go off screen for a second and then come back and try to fly at us over and over again until he's defeated. While the enemies in this area, except for Kingpin himself, do not actually have health bars, you'll know that you defeated them because once you hit them enough, they'll drop down, or just completely run off screen, for example with Vulture. Then it's Mysterio. And no surprise, it's the same strategy of just punching him, he'll disappear behind you, and then just keep repeating it. Once Mysterio is defeated, we're then going to go through another little area here. You can grab some health, an extra web if you need it, and when you pop out the other side, it's a pretty tough boss fight, as you have to deal with Electro, Hobgoblin, and Venom, pretty much all at the same time. Here at the very beginning of it, I'm able to lock Electro in a punch combo. This is actually really difficult to get done, and I was lucky to have it happen to me, though Electro's able to escape at the last second, and I still have to deal with him. Thankfully, his health is rather low, and you want to take out Electro quickly. His electricity, just like Hobgoblin's pumpkin bombs, are quite deadly to your overall health, with Venom actually being the easiest of the enemies here. Once Electro's done, I can focus more on Hobgoblin and Venom. Hobgoblin being my real goal here, as I can do my jump kick in order to hit Hobgoblin repeatedly as he's moving back and forth. Since Venom just jumps and tries to attack you straight up, his hit distance isn't very far, so you can focus on the other guys. Then, battle Venom. Just keep punching him over and over and he'll drop down. You now have to disarm the bomb. To do so, you have to use the keys in a specific order. Using the red one, then you want to use the right one on the far right, then the light blue-greenish one, then the dark blue one, and finally, the center panel will open and you can drop off the last key, disarming the bomb. And now it's time for the official last level, as we have two bosses before we actually make it to Kingpin himself. First up is Bullseye. Now Bullseye does have a projectile he'll throw at you. For the most part, I just run up and end up keep repeating my punches to him. He does damage, but eventually he'll go down. And then right after, it's Typhoid Mary. Now both of these characters are exclusive to the Sega CD version, and also are primarily in the Daredevil comics. The strategy for Typhoid Mary, though, remains the same as it just did with Bullseye. It's also interesting to note that while those two are exclusive to the Sega CD version, Doctor Strange is actually exclusive to the Master System and Sega Game Gear versions of the game. So, now it's time for the final boss after refilling our health. As you can see, Mary Jane is hanging from the top, and eventually she'll lower into the acid and fire burning below. If you do not defeat Kingpin fast enough and she ends up getting defeated, you get an alternate ending. To defeat Kingpin, though, we just do jump kicks. Over and over again with nice timing, we easily defeat Kingpin and save Mary Jane.
Mary Jane is unconscious, but she'll be okay. Once the cops dispose of Kingpin, I'll get her out of this place. There's your real criminal officers. You'll find his bomb in the other room, disarmed with the keys I took from his henchmen.
We have a lot to thank you for, Spider-Man.
And a lot to be ashamed of. To think we believed you were the bad guy.
Mistakes happen, guys. The important thing is, we're all on the same team.
This is all very touching, but you're wasting these officers' time, Spider-Man. My lawyers will have me out by dinner time.
Justice is never a waste of time, Kingpin.
Hi, Tiger. I knew you'd show up in time.
Well, I didn't want to be late for dinner.
After all these years, Spider-Man's finally gonna be behind bars, where he belongs.
You know, maybe you shouldn't have been in such a hurry to print that headline, Jonah. We don't have all the facts yet.
Mr. Jameson, the City Death said to hold that special edition and reprint the front page. Spider-Man's innocent.
What? No! He can't be! Ugh, he's fooled them again!
So there you have Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin for the Sega CD. After the end ends up coming up, we then actually get another screen which tells us, congratulations, you've won in normal mode, how much our score was, and how much time we had remaining. Now, like I said before, there is a nightmare difficulty, the hardest difficulty in a game, though the ending remains the same. If you're wondering about the alternate ending, it has you still defeating Kingpin and him getting arrested, except Spider-Man will vow vengeance for Mary Jane. There's also another alternate endings just like this in the other versions of the game, and they're very similar, with the exception of actually you can lose and Kingpin escaping in some of the other versions. But either way, guys, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.